So I'm coming to you today in this global classroom from the south coast of England, where I grew up, and it was always my dream as I grew up to join the army. So I joined the army in 2008. I joined the Royal Engineers, and after a little bit of time in training, some time in my unit, I got deployed to Afghanistan. Now I went to Afghanistan as what's called a search advisor, someone who is in charge of a team of guys who go out and look for improvised explosive devices on the battlefield. Now this is obviously a very dangerous job, as it proved out to be. During this operational tour, I stood on a bomb in February 2011 and ended up losing both of my legs. And from there, I've sort of had to come back and come through rehabilitation, really. And during my rehabilitation, I started to get back into running. Now, this was always something which I wanted to do. You know, just as Bear said earlier on in this classroom session, getting outdoors and getting into nature is what I absolutely loved. So I got myself some running prosthetics and I got out and I started running. I became quite good at this. I entered some competitions such as the Invictus Games, and I pushed on, and I realised actually I was quite good. And in 2016, I managed to get myself across to the Rio Paralympic Games, where I managed to win a bronze medal in the 200-metre sprint over there, which was another fantastic achievement for me. But over the course of this period where I've had to adjust to life with prosthetic limbs, I sort of realised that they weren't really quite as good as I expected them to be. Certainly not evenly distributed around the world. So along the way, I've gone into academics, and I've just finished my PhD in amputee biomechanics, learning how the amputee's body works in this changed situation. And I now have a new job at Imperial College here in the UK, in London, where we design and develop new prosthetic technology for use around the world. So a varied few years, from army officer through to design engineer.
That's quite an incredible journey. You've gone from what could have been sort of life-ending tragedy to academia, sports at the highest possible level. Now, if I just pause there, that's an incredible story, okay? And we've got some questions sent in for you. And the first question takes you right back to that time in Afghanistan. I know it's probably a difficult time in some ways, but Sophie wrote into us and asked, how were you able to keep yourself mentally in check whilst undertaking such a risky and demanding role of looking for IEDs and doing that? How do you cope with that?
It's a really great question, and I'm sure there's probably a certain level of insanity in there somewhere. But for me, everyone expected war to be this high adrenaline experience, and for me, in the job that I was doing, it wasn't really about that. We were very rarely shot at, and I didn't have to engage in any gunfights. What we were doing was long, slow, methodical work out for long periods of time during the day, 12 to 16 hours a day sometimes, moving across the ground, searching methodically for these bombs that have been hidden. Now, whilst those peaks in adrenaline weren't there, what this presented us with was an incredible level of underlying stress. It was like a lower level of stress, but it was always there and always present. And I think it's probably similar to something which the world is experiencing now with the pandemic that's going on. It's this low level of stress which is always there, and it's always taking its toll on you. But to cope with this situation, we had an extreme belief in what we were doing. You know, removing bombs from the ground is generally considered quite good for everyone involved. And the team which I was working with, which I was fortunate enough to lead, we were very, very close and tight-knit. We communicated openly, honestly, and talked through the stressful situations. And we always came back to that reason that we were there. We felt that it was a good thing to do. So in summary, it's just teamwork on top of a very strong vision and belief.
Wow, I mean, it sounds so teamwork, but I'm sure it was a really tight-knit team on there as well to manage that. You talked about some life-changing events that happened to you, and I know people talk about COVID-19 pandemic as being unprecedented. The same thing is true what happened to you, certainly. I know losing your legs and your limb side of it. There was obviously an extraordinary, challenging physical journey to go on. But how did you manage to overcome the mental challenges of such an injury and then go on to achieve, not only thrive in sport, but a PhD as well?
This, again, is another great question. So first off, I'll give a 3-word answer, and then I'll go into more detail. So the 3 words: acceptance, choice, simplicity. Those things were absolutely key for me. And they first came to light when I was in the hospital bed. So just weeks after I'd been blown up. I was back in the UK at this point. And I was faced with a situation of whether I would accept the situation that I was in or not. The answer was quite obvious. I couldn't change the past, but I could change what the future might look like. So accepting that it had happened was a very important but very simple first step to make. So that approach of those three words, acceptance, choice, simplicity, is what I've tried to apply to all of the challenges I've come up against. And for me, during the training for the Paralympics, for example, it was really useful during the cold, wet winter training sessions. It was my choice to aim for the Rio Paralympics. So do I want to do this session or not? And of course I do. So I just get on with the training session because that's what I needed to do to carry out the choice that I had made. So that's where the simplicity came in. So for me, thinking about the finished product of something is incredibly daunting. So maybe, for example, you want to become an astronaut, maybe you want to run a marathon, maybe you want to write a book. But breaking these challenges down into these tiny pieces, into these simple steps, makes everything incredibly helpful. So for example, to become an astronaut, right now I need to concentrate on passing this maths or this English test. And that's all I have to worry about right now. I don't have to focus on the big goal. I can focus on that small goal. The same for a marathon. To run a marathon, I need to be able to run first off 10 meters, then 100 meters, then 1 kilometer. And that's all you have to concentrate on for now. So this is helpful for both achieving the end goal and maintaining a positive mindset, as it keeps you firmly in the present with the things that you can control right now. So 3 words: acceptance, choice, simplicity.
Great. Acceptance, choice, simplicity. Okay. Now, Alex has written as well here, a question for you. Where does that mental strength actually come from to do that? And the words are there, but where does the strength come from?
Alex, this is a great question. It's a very difficult one. So I've thought about this one a little bit, and I think there's a common misconception that all resilience comes from you. It's all driven by yourself, and I absolutely don't think that's the case. Of course, some of it does, but there's also the resilience that you can build or you can gain from others. So the teamwork aspect that we've talked about throughout this classroom session. There's a common saying here in the UK, I'm not sure if it's common around the world, but a problem shared is a problem halved. And this has certainly been true for me. So since I was injured, I've had this incredible support network all around me through rehabilitation, through everything else that I've done. I've built this team up, and this team have been there to support me. People have been there to listen to my ideas, whether they're sensible or perhaps a little bit stupid, and then they've told me when I've been stupid, and they've challenged me and they've pushed me when they've needed to. So to keep me focused on what it is that I'm trying to achieve and why I achieve it, I have this network around me. So this peer support network provides me with this resilience and plugs the gaps in my own resilience where I may be struggling. Now, the other thing you need is accountability. So this is allowing others to question you and hold you to account when you're not meeting up to what it is that you said you were going to do. Now, on top of having other people around, you also have to hold yourself to account. So if you set yourself that challenge, you've committed to that challenge, you have to hold yourself to account. And going back to the answer from the previous question, acceptance, choice, and simplicity, move on and move forward.
Now, there's going to be a lot of children and adults watching this program around the world, globally, translated to multiple languages. Okay, let's go down to the point here about what key message would you give them today to support them taking positive steps, just like you did in difficult times?
Okay, so first and foremost, those 3 words: acceptance, choice, simplicity. Understand where you are and that you've got no control over what has happened before. Make a positive choice to be present and to move forward, and identify your target. Communicate this with others and be willing to hold yourself to account. I think those bits are key. You have to drive your success. You can't be a passenger in your own journey. Break your target down into its most simple form. Understand that there will be challenges, but these are inevitable. Be resilient in your approach to dealing with them. Communicate this resilience and these challenges with that teamwork, that peer support network that's around you, and apply those words as often as you need to see yourself through.